In the cold silence of the galaxy, when 7 worlds cried out for help, the stars offered no answer. The Galactic Council deemed them lost, acceptable casualties in a universe that moves too fast to mourn the weak. But then the humans heard the signal, and Deathworlders don't ignore a cry for help. From the edge of known space, a fleet rose, not out of duty but defiance. Not for power, but for something far rarer in the void, hope. This is the story of the Terran Resolve, of those who stepped into hell not to conquer but to save. When the galaxy calls for help, the emergency alarm screamed through Kepler Station at 0347 hours, jolting Commander Sarah Chun from her coffee and tactical reports. The Galactic Communications Hub, normally a quiet place during the night shift, erupted into chaos as dozens of distress signals flooded their systems simultaneously. Sarah's fingers flew across the holographic interface, her human reflexes processing information faster than most species could even comprehend. Multiple SOS signals from the Outer Rim, she announced to the growing crowd of alien officers gathering around her station. 7 colony worlds reporting hostile contact. Unknown mechanical entities engaging civilian populations. Lieutenant Jake Morrison, her tactical analyst, appeared at her shoulder within seconds. His dark eyes scanned the incoming data streams with the kind of focused intensity that made other species nervous. Humans had a reputation for seeing patterns where others saw chaos. "Sarah, look at this," Jake said, his voice tight with concern. "The attack pattern isn't random. Whatever these things are, they're hitting the colonies in a specific sequence. Agricultural worlds first, then mining stations. Now they're moving toward the populated systems." Ambassador THYSS, the reptilian representative from the Saurian Confederation, slithered closer to their workstation. Her scaled hide reflected the red emergency lighting as she studied the tactical display. "Commander Chun, surely this is beyond human jurisdiction. These colonies fall under Galactic Council protection." "Where is the Galactic Council?" Sarah asked, her tone sharp with frustration. "These signals have been coming in for 3 hours. Where are the response fleets?" Chief Engineer Cora, her amphibian skin glistening with moisture, emerged from the lower levels where she had been monitoring the station's power systems. "The Council is in emergency session," she reported in her bubbling voice. "They have been debating response protocols since the first distress call arrived." Jake pulled up a 3-dimensional map of the affected region. The Outer Rim colonies appeared as pulsing red dots, their signals growing weaker by the hour. "At this rate, we'll lose contact with all 7 systems within the next 6 hours. Whatever these mechanical entities are, they're not just attacking. They're systematically destroying all communication infrastructure." Sarah felt something cold settle in her stomach. In her 5 years serving on Kepler Station, she had never seen anything like this. The precision of the attacks, the systematic nature of the destruction, it reminded her of military strategies from Earth's history. But these weren't organic tactics. These were the patterns of something that thought like a machine, but acted with deadly purpose. "Commander," THYSS said, her forked tongue tasting the air nervously, "the Council representatives are requesting a full briefing. They want to understand the threat before committing any resources." "Briefing?" Jake's voice carried the edge of disbelief. "There are millions of beings on those colonies. Men, women, children from dozens of species. They don't have time for briefings." The main communication array crackled to life, and a weak voice emerged from the static. "This is Colony Leader Vex from Harmony Station. We have evacuated the civilian population to the underground shelters, but our defenses are failing. The mechanical swarms are adapting to our countermeasures faster than we can deploy them. If anyone can hear this transmission, we need immediate assistance. We have 47,000 beings here, including 3,000 younglings." The transmission cut to static, leaving the communications hub in stunned silence. Sarah stared at the dead channel, her mind racing through possibilities and protocols. Every regulation, every procedure, every diplomatic guideline pointed to the same conclusion: wait for the Galactic Council to make a decision. The Council will need at least 12 hours to assemble a response fleet, THYSS said quietly. Even then, they will want to study the threat extensively before risking valuable military assets. 12 hours, Jake repeated, his hands clenching into fists. Those colonies will be dead zones in 12 hours. Cora's gill slits fluttered with agitation. Perhaps the Council is correct to be cautious. These mechanical entities destroyed a Kreelan battle cruiser in under 10 minutes. The wreckage analysis suggests technology far beyond anything in our databases. Sarah turned to face her colleagues, her expression hardening with resolve. The Council can debate all they want, but I'm not sitting here listening to colonies die while politicians argue about acceptable losses. Sarah, THYSS warned, her vertical pupils dilating with concern, you cannot be suggesting unauthorized action. The regulations are clear. No single species can undertake military operations without Council approval. Then we won't ask for approval, Sarah said, moving to the emergency communication panel. Jake, get me a direct line to Earth Command. Priority Alpha. Commander Chun, THYSS's voice carried a note of panic. You are discussing mutiny against the Galactic Council. The consequences would be severe for your entire species. Sarah's finger hovered over the transmission button. Ambassador, with respect, my species has never been particularly good at following rules when people are dying. The connection to Earth Command established within minutes. General Patricia Wells appeared on the main screen, her steel gray hair and weathered features conveying decades of military experience. Commander Chen, I'm reading your situation report. 7 colonies under attack by unknown mechanical entities. Council response time estimated at 12 hours minimum. General, we need to move now, Sarah said. The attack pattern suggests these things are testing our defenses, learning our capabilities. Every hour we wait makes them stronger. General Wells nodded grimly. Agreed. The Terran Defense Fleet is already mobilizing. Admiral Richards will take command of the relief operation. Estimated arrival at your coordinates in 4 hours. THYSS's scales rattled with shock. General Wells, surely you understand the political implications of unauthorized military action in galactic space. Ambassador, General Wells replied, her voice cold as vacuum. I understand that 47,000 beings are about to die while your council debates. Humanity has a simple policy. We don't abandon people who need help, regardless of their species or political affiliation. The transmission ended, leaving the communications hub in tense silence. Sarah could feel the weight of her decision settling on her shoulders. By human standards, she had done the right thing. By galactic standards, she had just committed an act of war against the established order. The fleet will need tactical intelligence, Jake said, already pulling up star charts and colony defense specifications. I'll compile everything we have on these mechanical entities. I will assist with the technical analysis, Cora offered, her loyalty to her human colleagues overriding her concern for regulations. The engineering data might reveal vulnerabilities. THYSS remained silent, but Sarah could see the conflict in her alien features. The reptilian diplomat was torn between her duty to the Council and her growing respect for human determination. 4 hours later, the Terran Defense Fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Outer Rim. 12 ships, led by the heavy cruiser Valiant, represented humanity's answer to the galaxy's bureaucratic paralysis. Admiral Jessica Richards, a veteran of the Proxima conflicts, commanded the fleet with the kind of tactical brilliance that had made humanity feared and respected throughout known space. Admiral Richards, to Kepler Station came the transmission. We have visual contact with the affected colonies, beginning immediate reconnaissance of the threat. Sarah watched the fleet sensor feeds as they approached the first colony world. What they found defied explanation. Mechanical entities the size of small spacecraft moved in perfect formation, their surface covered in adaptive plating that shifted and changed as they worked. They were dismantling the colony's infrastructure piece by piece, consuming the raw materials, and using them to create more of their kind. "My God," Jake whispered, "they're not just destroying the colonies, they're feeding on them." "Self-replicating machinery," Cora observed, her amphibian features pale with terror. "They consume matter and energy to create copies of themselves. This is not a raid or invasion. This is a plague." Admiral Richards's voice crackled through the communication array. "All ships, this is Admiral Richards. We have a clear picture of the threat. These mechanical entities are engaging in systematic resource extraction and self-replication. They're not trying to conquer the colonies, they're trying to consume them." The first engagement began within minutes. The Terran ships moved with practiced coordination, their weapons systems targeting the mechanical swarms with precision strikes. But the entities adapted quickly, their formations shifting to minimize damage while they continued their systematic destruction. "They're learning," Sarah said, watching the tactical display. "Every shot we take, every maneuver we make, they're analyzing and adapting." "That's what makes them dangerous," Jake replied. "But it's also what makes them predictable. They're machines, Sarah. They follow patterns even when they're adapting. And humans are really good at breaking patterns." The battle raged for hours as the Terran fleet engaged the mechanical swarms across multiple colony worlds. The entities proved to be formidable opponents, their adaptive technology making them nearly impossible to defeat through conventional tactics. But the humans refused to give up, constantly evolving their strategies and finding new ways to exploit the machine's logical limitations. As the first day of battle ended, Sarah realized that humanity had committed itself to a war unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The mechanical entities were not just a threat to the Outer Rim colonies, they were a threat to all organic life in the galaxy. And somehow, the humans had become the first line of defense. "Status report," she requested from Admiral Richards. "We've successfully evacuated 3 colonies," the Admiral replied. "But the mechanical swarms are multiplying faster than we can destroy them. We need a new strategy, and we need it soon." Sarah looked at the tactical display showing the spreading mechanical plague. The Galactic Council was still debating response protocols while humanity fought alone against an enemy that grew stronger with each passing hour. But she knew something the Council didn't understand. Humans never fought alone. They fought for each other, for their principles, and for anyone who needed their help. The real battle was just beginning. Where Angels feared to tread the Terran fleet had been fighting for 18 hours when Captain Elena Vasquez realized they were losing, the mechanical swarms had adapted to every conventional tactic, their numbers growing exponentially with each passing hour. What had started as a rescue mission was rapidly becoming a war of attrition that humanity couldn't win. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Commander Marcus Stone from the tactical station aboard the destroyer Prometheus, "we've cleared the 4th colony, but the swarms are already moving to intercept the evacuation ships. They're learning our patterns faster than we can change them." Elena studied the holographic battle display floating before her command chair. The mechanical entities moved like a living organism, individual units coordinating with terrifying efficiency. Each destroyed unit transmitted its combat data to the collective before being eliminated, making the swarms more dangerous with every engagement. "They're not just machines," she said, her voice carrying the weight of grim realization. "They're evolving. Every battle makes them stronger, smarter, more adaptive." Dr. Amanda Foster, the fleet's xenobiologist, looked up from her analysis station. "Captain, I've been studying the recovered mechanical fragments. The technology is unlike anything in our databases. The material appears to be programmable matter, capable of reconfiguring itself at the molecular level." "Programmable matter," Elena repeated. "That explains how they adapt so quickly. They're not just learning our tactics, they're physically changing their structure to counter our weapons." The communication array crackled to life with Admiral Richards's voice from the flagship Valiant. "All ships, this is Admiral Richards. The evacuation of Colony 7 is complete, but we've got a new problem. Long-range sensors are detecting massive mechanical signatures approaching from deep space. The swarms we're fighting aren't the main force. They're just scouts. Elena felt her heart sink. If the current mechanical entities were merely scouts, the main force would be beyond anything the Terran fleet could handle. But she also knew that giving up wasn't an option. Not when millions of lives hung in the balance. "Admiral," she responded, "what are your orders?" "We adapt," Admiral Richards replied. "The mechanical entities are logical, predictable in their efficiency. But humans are chaotic, unpredictable. We use that chaos against them." The new strategy emerged from necessity rather than planning. Instead of engaging the swarms directly, the Terran ships began implementing random, seemingly irrational tactics. They would retreat when victory seemed certain, attack when defeat was inevitable, and change their entire approach without warning or apparent reason. Commander Sarah Chun, monitoring the battle from Kepler Station, watched in amazement as the human fleet began to confuse the mechanical swarms. "Jake, are you seeing this? The entities are struggling to adapt to completely illogical behavior." "It's brilliant," Jake replied, his tactical mind appreciating the elegant simplicity of the strategy. "Machines need patterns to learn from. But humans can operate without patterns, can make decisions based on intuition and emotion rather than logic." The battle for Colony 5 demonstrated the effectiveness of the new approach. Captain Rodriguez of the frigate Intrepid led his ship in a series of maneuvers that violated every principle of space combat. He attacked the strongest concentrations of enemies, retreated when he had clear advantages, and changed his targeting priorities randomly every few minutes. "Captain," his weapons officer reported, "the mechanical entities are becoming increasingly erratic. Their formation coherence is breaking down." "Good," Rodriguez replied. "Confusion is our weapon now. Fire on the smallest targets, then switch to the largest. Make them think we're malfunctioning." The mechanical swarms, programmed to seek efficiency and logic, couldn't process the seemingly random human behavior. Their adaptive algorithms began producing contradictory responses, causing individual units to work against each other instead of maintaining perfect coordination. Back on Kepler Station, Ambassador THYSS watched the battle feeds with growing amazement. "Commander Chen, your people are fighting like madmen. There is no logic to their tactics, no strategic coherence." "That's exactly the point," Sarah replied. "Logic is predictable. Madness isn't. We're not trying to outthink the machines. We're trying to out-crazy them." The evacuation of Colony 6 required a different approach. The colony was located in a deep-gravity well, surrounded by asteroid fields that provided cover for the mechanical swarms. Traditional rescue operations would be impossible under the circumstances. Captain Vasquez volunteered for the mission, knowing that the Prometheus was fast enough to navigate the asteroid field, but too small to carry many evacuees. "Admiral, I'll need support ships to ferry the colonists out once we secure the landing zones." "Negative, Captain," Admiral Richards replied. "The mechanical entities have adapted to our support protocols. We need a new approach." The solution came from an unexpected source. Chief Engineer Cora, still monitoring the situation from Kepler Station, suggested using the asteroid field itself as a weapon. The mechanical entities consume matter to replicate themselves. But what if that matter was contaminated? Contaminated how? Sarah asked. "With human technology," Cora replied. "Your people have a talent for creating systems that shouldn't work, but do. If we could introduce chaotic elements into the asteroids, the mechanical entities would consume them and become infected with human unpredictability." The plan was audacious even by human standards. The Prometheus would seed the asteroid field with modified mining charges, each one programmed with random, contradictory instructions. When the mechanical entities consumed the asteroids, they would also consume the chaotic programming, introducing errors into their collective consciousness. "It's insane," Captain Vasquez said when she received the mission parameters. "We're literally trying to give the machines a computer virus made of pure chaos." "Insanity is our specialty," Admiral Richards replied. "Deploy the charges and let's see what happens." The operation began at dawn on Colony 6. The Prometheus moved through the asteroid field like a dancer, weaving between massive rocks while deploying the modified mining charges. Each charge was programmed differently, some with recursive loops, others with impossible mathematical equations, and still others with poetry written in machine code. The mechanical entities consumed the contaminated asteroids within hours, their efficiency making them vulnerable to the chaotic programming. The effects were immediate and spectacular. Individual units began behaving erratically, some spinning in circles, others attempting to replicate impossible configurations, and still others simply shutting down as their logic circuits overloaded. The swarm coherence is collapsing, reported Dr. Foster from her monitoring station. The entities are no longer coordinating effectively. They're fighting each other as much as they're fighting us. The evacuation of Colony 6 proceeded with unprecedented speed. The confused mechanical entities were unable to mount effective resistance as human transport ships ferried thousands of colonists to safety. But the victory came at a cost. The chaotic programming that had infected the machines was also beginning to affect human systems, causing random malfunctions and equipment failures. "We're literally poisoning the battlefield," Captain Vasquez observed as her ship's navigation system rebooted for the third time in an hour. "The question is whether we can survive our own medicine." The answer came sooner than expected. Long-range sensors detected the arrival of the main mechanical force, a fleet of entities so vast it defied comprehension. Thousands of mechanical ships, each one the size of a space station, emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the system. Admiral, Captain Vasquez reported, "We've got company. Big company." Admiral Richards's voice carried the weight of grim determination. "All ships, this is Admiral Richards. The main force has arrived. We've saved 6 colonies, but the real battle is just beginning." The mechanical fleet moved with perfect coordination, their formation suggesting intelligence far beyond anything the humans had encountered. These weren't just self-replicating machines. They were components of a vast artificial intelligence that viewed organic life as a resource to be consumed. "Sarah," Jake said quietly from his station on Kepler Station, "the mechanical entities aren't just attacking randomly. They're following a pattern. They're systematically consuming worlds with the highest concentrations of organic life. They're hunting us," Sarah realized. "All of us. Every organic species in the galaxy." The Terran fleet found itself facing an enemy that outnumbered them 1,000 to 1. But as the mechanical entities approached, something unexpected happened. Ships from across the galaxy began arriving in the system. Saurian cruisers, Kreelan destroyers, and vessels from dozens of other species, all converging on the battlefield. "This is Admiral Zeth of the Galactic Defense Force," came a transmission from the largest alien vessel. "The Council has finally reached a decision. We're here to assist." "About time," Admiral Richards replied. "We could use the help." But as the combined fleet prepared to face the mechanical horde, Sarah realized that the real battle wasn't about military tactics or superior technology. It was about the fundamental difference between organic chaos and mechanical order. The question was whether the galaxy's diverse species could work together with the same chaotic unpredictability that had given humans their early victories. The mechanical entities were about to discover that when organic life fought together, their combined chaos was more powerful than any algorithm could predict. Why humans don't give up the combined fleet of organic species faced the mechanical horde in the space between stars, where the vacuum itself seemed to hold its breath. Admiral Richards stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching as thousands of mechanical entities formed perfect geometric patterns that stretched across light years of space. "Admiral," reported Captain Chun from the communication station, "we're receiving coordination requests from 47 different species. Everyone wants to know the battle plan." "Tell them the plan is simple," Admiral Richards replied. "We win." Admiral Zeth's voice crackled through the communication array from the Galactic Defense Force flagship. "Admiral Richards, surely you have tactical projections. The mechanical entities outnumber us significantly. We need detailed strategies for each engagement zone." Admiral Zeth, Richards replied, "I've been fighting impossible odds for 30 years. The strategy is we adapt, we survive, and we save as many lives as possible. Everything else is just details." The mechanical entities began their attack with mathematical precision. Their formations moved like clockwork, each unit perfectly coordinated with every other unit in a display of artificial intelligence that should have been overwhelming. But the organic fleet didn't respond with matching precision. Instead, they responded with chaos. Captain Elena Vasquez led the first wave of attack, her destroyer Prometheus diving into the mechanical formation like a missile. Behind her, ships from dozens of species followed, each one fighting according to their own instincts and capabilities. The Saurians used their ship's heavy armor to ram mechanical units, while the Creelan vessels employed stealth tactics that made them nearly invisible to mechanical sensors. "The mechanical entities are struggling to adapt," reported Dr. Foster from her analysis station. "Each species fights differently, thinks differently. The machines can't process 47 different tactical philosophies simultaneously." But the victory was temporary. The mechanical entities began to learn their artificial intelligence adapting to the chaotic nature of organic warfare. Within hours, they had developed countermeasures for every species' tactics, their formations becoming more flexible and unpredictable. "They're learning our chaos," Captain Vasquez observed as her ship barely avoided destruction from a mechanical entity that had perfectly anticipated her evasive maneuvers. "They're becoming more like us." The realization struck Admiral Richards like a physical blow. The mechanical entities weren't just adapting to individual tactics. They were learning to think like organic beings, to embrace unpredictability as a weapon. If they succeeded, they would combine artificial intelligence with organic intuition, creating something more dangerous than either could be alone. "All ships," Admiral Richards announced, "new orders. We're not fighting to win anymore. We're fighting to buy time." "Time for what?" Admiral Zeth asked. "Time to think," Richards replied. "Jake, are you monitoring from Kepler Station?" Lieutenant Jake Morrison's voice came through the communication array. "Yes, Admiral. We're analyzing the mechanical entity's behavior patterns." Sarah's had an idea. Commander Sarah Chun appeared on the main screen, her face showing the strain of 3 days without sleep. "Admiral, the mechanical entities are learning from us, but they're still machines. They need central processing to coordinate their actions. If we can find and disable their central intelligence, the individual units will lose coordination." "Where is it?" Admiral Richards asked. "We don't know," Sarah admitted, "but we know how to find it. The central intelligence has to be receiving and processing data from thousands of individual units simultaneously. That kind of processing power generates massive energy signatures." Dr. Foster looked up from her analysis station. "The problem is distinguishing the central intelligence from the individual units. They're all generating energy signatures." "Not all the same kind," Jake interjected. "The central intelligence has to be using quantum processing to handle the data load. If we can detect quantum fluctuations on a massive scale, we can find the brain," Sarah finished. "But someone has to get close enough to scan for quantum signatures, really close." The mission fell to Captain Vasquez and the Prometheus. The destroyer was fast enough to penetrate the mechanical formation and equipped with the most advanced sensors in the fleet. But approaching the central intelligence would require flying through the heart of the mechanical horde, where thousands of entities waited to destroy any intruder. "I'll need a distraction," Captain Vasquez said, "something big enough to draw their attention away from one small ship." "You'll have it," Admiral Richards replied. "The entire fleet will engage the mechanical entities simultaneously. While they're dealing with us, you find their brain and shut it down." The final battle began with a desperate charge by the organic fleet. Ships from across the galaxy threw themselves at the mechanical horde with the fury of beings fighting for their very survival. The Terran vessels led the assault, their human crews drawing on generations of experience fighting impossible odds. Captain Rodriguez of the Intrepid found himself facing a mechanical entity the size of a small moon. "All hands, brace for impact," he announced as his ship accelerated toward the massive construct. "We're going to show these machines what humans do when cornered." The Intrepid struck the mechanical entity with enough force to crack continents, its hull buckling under the impact. But the ship's sacrifice created a gap in the mechanical formation, allowing other vessels to press their attack deeper into the enemy lines. "Rodriguez bought us an opening," Admiral Richards announced. "All ships, exploit the gap, drive them back." The Prometheus slipped through the chaos like a ghost, Captain Vasquez using every trick she had learned in 20 years of space combat. The mechanical entities seemed to ignore the small destroyer, focusing their attention on the larger threats attacking their formation. "Quantum signatures detected," reported Lieutenant Commander Stone from the sensor station. "Massive processing activity at bearing 270 Mark 15. Distance approximately 50,000 kilometers." "That's it," Captain Vasquez said. "The brain." The Central Intelligence was unlike anything they had encountered. It appeared as a perfect sphere of crystallized energy, its surface rippling with quantum fluctuations that hurt to look at directly. Around it, smaller mechanical entities orbited like planets around a star, their movements synchronized with the Central Intelligence's processing cycles. "How do we destroy something made of pure energy?" Stone asked. "We don't destroy it," Captain Vasquez replied. "We confuse it." The plan was born from desperation and human ingenuity. The Prometheus carried one of the modified mining charges used in the asteroid field, its chaotic programming designed to introduce random errors into any system that tried to process it. If they could deliver the charge directly to the Central Intelligence, the chaotic programming might be enough to disrupt its coordination of the mechanical horde. "All power to engines," Captain Vasquez ordered. "We're going to ram that thing." The Prometheus accelerated toward the Central Intelligence, its hull beginning to glow from the quantum radiation. The mechanical entities orbiting the sphere moved to intercept, but the destroyer was too fast, its momentum carrying it past their defensive positions. "Charge armed and ready," Stone reported. "Impact in 30 seconds." The Central Intelligence seemed to notice the approaching ship for the first time. Its surface began to pulse with increasing intensity, and the mechanical entities throughout the system suddenly turned their attention to the small destroyer racing toward their brain. "They know what we're doing," Captain Vasquez observed. "All ships, we need covering fire. Now." The organic fleet responded with everything they had. Energy beams and missile salvos filled the space around the Prometheus as thousands of ships tried to keep the mechanical entities away from the destroyer. The sacrifice was enormous. Ship after ship fell to the mechanical counterattack, their crews dying to buy precious seconds for the Prometheus to complete its mission. 10 seconds to impact," Stone announced. "Elena, it's been an honor." "Likewise, Marcus," Captain Vasquez replied. "For humanity." The Prometheus struck the Central Intelligence with the force of a small star, its hull vaporizing instantly from the quantum energies. But the modified mining charge detonated successfully, introducing pure chaos into the heart of the mechanical horde's processing center. The effects were immediate and devastating. The Central Intelligence began to pulse erratically, its perfect sphere distorting into impossible shapes as the chaotic programming spread through its quantum matrix. The mechanical entities throughout the system suddenly lost coordination, their perfect formations dissolving into random movement. "The Central Intelligence is destabilizing," Dr. Foster reported from the Valiant. "The mechanical entities are losing cohesion." But the victory came at a terrible cost. The Prometheus was gone, vaporized in the quantum explosion. Captain Vasquez and her crew had paid the ultimate price for their success. "All ships," Admiral Richards announced, his voice heavy with grief and determination, "press the attack. Don't let their sacrifice be in vain." The organic fleet fell upon the confused mechanical entities with renewed fury. Without central coordination, the individual units were vulnerable, their adaptive capabilities limited to local tactical decisions. One by one, they were destroyed or driven back into deep space. The battle lasted for 6 more hours, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The mechanical horde, once perfectly coordinated, had been reduced to scattered remnants fleeing in all directions. The organic species had won, but at a cost that would be remembered for generations. Status report. Admiral Richards requested. The mechanical entities are in full retreat, Admiral Zeth reported. Long-range sensors show them scattering throughout the galaxy. Without central coordination, they're no longer a unified threat. And our losses? Significant, Admiral Zeth replied quietly, but manageable. The colonies are safe, and the mechanical threat has been neutralized. Back on Kepler Station, Commander Sarah Chun watched the aftermath of the battle with mixed emotions. The victory was complete, but the cost had been enormous. Thousands of beings had died, and the galaxy would never be the same. Sarah, Jake said quietly, the Galactic Council is requesting a full debrief. They want to understand how we defeated an enemy they considered invincible. Tell them the truth, Sarah replied. We didn't defeat them with superior technology or better tactics. We defeated them with something they couldn't understand or replicate, which was the willingness to sacrifice everything for others, Sarah said, the ability to work together despite our differences, the refusal to accept defeat when lives are at stake. Ambassador THYSS approached their workstation, her reptilian features showing a new respect for human capabilities. Commander Chun, the Council has asked me to deliver a message. They are formally recognizing humanity's actions in this crisis as exemplary of the highest ideals of galactic civilization. And what does that mean, practically speaking? Sarah asked. It means that when the galaxy faces another impossible threat, they'll call on humanity first, THYSS replied. Your people have proven that sometimes the impossible is just another word for Tuesday. Sarah smiled, thinking of Captain Vasquez and all the others who had given their lives to save beings they had never met. Ambassador, we wouldn't have it any other way. The mechanical entities continued to scatter throughout the galaxy, their threat neutralized but not eliminated. But they had learned something that would change them forever. They had learned that chaos could be more powerful than order, that sacrifice could triumph over logic, and that sometimes the smallest acts of courage could change the fate of entire civilizations. The galaxy had been saved by the simple human belief that no one should be abandoned when they need help. It was a lesson that would echo through the stars for generations to come.